All right, welcome back in here to Live and Now from Fox. I'm Eddie Mack. Thank you so much for joining us. Just about 3:30 on the East Coast. And now as we enter a new week, it's going to officially be debate week for the first presidential debate coming up on Thursday. A live look right here out of Washington, D.C. As we are preparing for this, as they are taking very different approaches. Joe Biden begins an intense period of private preparations on Friday, Camp David, for what may be the most consequential presidential debate in decades. I want to put up this tweet as well from Fox News here on Live Now from Fox, talking about this debate prep as from Fox News, from a former President Trump national campaign press secretary, saying, I think it's concerning that we have a president that can't do debate prep and also run the country at the same time. He has to go away and hide. We want to get into this a little bit here on Live Now from Fox, just ahead of this debate. We want to bring in right now on Live Now from Fox, Stephen Neely, a professor of public affairs at the University of South Florida. Thank you, sir, for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. And obviously, two very different candidates, two very different preparation styles. Maybe what are we looking at to most as we're just days away from this debate?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And it's a great question. Obviously, we've seen probably the most divergent strategy that we've seen in years between these two candidates, with President Trump really not engaging in traditional debate prep, but hitting the trail, doing rallies, and being very critical, of course, of President Biden's preparation efforts, as you pointed out there. And President Biden taking a little bit more of a traditional approach to debate prep, to kind of sequester himself for a bit and really dig into the issues and the topics that he wants to prepare for and be ready to discuss. I think that former President Trump's comments last night are probably an indicator of where we can expect some of his focus and some of his fire to go, so to speak, on Thursday night. And so he at a rally last night in Philadelphia kind of even pulled the crowd informally and asked them if they would like to see a nasty and critical debate. And of course, they cheered and said yes. It's a really risky move for him for a lot of reasons, but it seems to be the direction that he's leaning in right now.
Yeah, and of course, this is a rematch of a debate that we saw 4 years ago as well. And you mentioned just maybe the nastiness of it, because that is going to be a lot of sparring words, even though they're going to turn the mics off, even though there are some guidelines in place, no audience in play at all. Do you think there's anything that constructive that comes from this debate?
Whether anything constructive comes up from this debate is, remains to be seen. But that doesn't mean it's not an important debate. If you go back to there were 3 debates in 2020, and if you go back to the first one, it really proved to be costly for Donald Trump. A poll coming out of that debate showed that about 70% of voters found it off-putting. Annoying was a common word used to describe the debate and to describe his behavior in the debate. Joe Biden got a bump in what we call voting intention following that debate. And I wouldn't go so far as to necessarily say that debate cost the election for Trump, but it cost him a lot of potential votes, particularly from women in suburban areas, a voting bloc that he really needed. And it cost him some potential support there. And a lot of those people who responded to that poll kind of said that they never tuned back into the other debates. They kind of seen what they needed to see. They weren't impressed with his demeanor and the way he treated his opponent. And that was very costly for him. So it'll be really important to see if he engages in a similar approach this time.
Yeah, and I was going to say, do you think he maybe learned from anything? Because no really preparation. He's going around, campaigned twice in Washington, D.C., in Philadelphia. Do you think he potentially learned from what happened last time around?
I think he certainly learned from it last time. If you look at the next 2 debates, his demeanor was much tamer. But the damage had been done at that point. And certainly, in the 4 years since those debates, he's been grinding on a lot of axes, and he's certainly got his base really riled up at this point, and looking for a certain type of performance out of him that I think he feels some degree of obligation to deliver on. But again, I'm speculating there. I can't really say what's in his mind in terms of his strategy.
Yeah, that is a very good point. I want my last question about the debate before we turn to other subjects. I want to put up this tweet, this poll from Fox News talking about who they predict will win the upcoming debate. According to voters, it's kind of a 50-50 split. But when you ask Democrats and Republicans, will we have it any other way? The Democrats think Biden will win. The Republicans think Trump will win. In terms of this and maybe winning the debates as well, and if they can sway undecided voters, do you think the debates have any maybe constructive nature in that, how they swing people either way?
Yeah. So, I mean, respectfully, for a poll like that, it really doesn't mean much of anything, right? Because Democrats are going to say Biden won no matter what. Republicans are going to say Trump won no matter what. What matters is that small portion of voters who are still persuadable or who haven't made up their mind yet. A lot of those voters we know right now are leaning in one direction or another, but they're not thrilled with that choice. And the performance of the candidates in these two debates, and there's a limited debating opportunities this time, it seems, the performance of the candidates could be a big factor in whether those leaners show up and vote, or whether they say, I'm leaning toward this guy, but I'm just not inspired enough to go do it.
Yeah, that is a
So the
very good.
debates could be really powerful in that regard, but we're talking about a small segment of the voting bloc that really is available to be moved here.
Yeah, that is a very, very good point. Of course, as we talked to other experts before, that you may not be able to win the election on the first night, but you potentially could lose it by something. So maybe just keeping a little bit of an even keel. All right, let's get into another topic that we're talking about in terms of this race. And we got some news yesterday that Trump told reporters he made up his mind on his VP choice, but he has yet to tell them as of yet. A tweet there from the New York Post saying he hasn't told them yet. Of course, we have some indications, speculation. It could be Doug Burgum of North Dakota, J.D. Vance, Ohio senator. What does Trump's history tell us about who he could be potentially leading? And maybe is it common for candidates to pick their VP but not disclose it to that individual?
Well, I think he said, kind of in my mind, I know who it is, and I'm not sure that that was so much a claim that he's made his decision. It also costs him nothing to say that he's made his decision, and it gets him media attention. And he's very good at kind of manipulating that cycle in a way that favors him. So I think that we have to kind of take that with a grain of salt. But I think that the decision really has always been for the Republican primary next month. That's always kind of been where they said this would be released. So I think that this is maybe a teaser, but I wouldn't necessarily expect to see a name come out here in the next day or two. I think that Doug Burgum is certainly one of the leading candidates. Doesn't come with some of the challenges that some of the senatorial candidates have. Of course, we know that some of the senatorial candidates who are under consideration, I shouldn't call them candidates, but some of the senators who are under consideration voted to certify the 2020 election, and that's a sticking point for Donald Trump. Marco Rubio, who I saw you have pictured there, that creates some problems 12th Amendment wise. Unless one of them plans to relocate, that could really wedge up the vice presidential choice in the Electoral College. And so I think that there's a lot of curiosity around this right now. I'm not expecting to see a decision quite yet.
Yeah, that is a very good point. You can kind of tease it out and continue to get this media attention about it until the RNC as well. In terms of those three potential people that could be his running mate, how do they factor in maybe the importance? Because you talked about the senators maybe have a little bit more baggage, but the governor from North Dakota, not necessarily a battleground state. How do they weigh some of those factors into what the VP will bring?
Yeah. So traditionally, a vice presidential pick should, from a strategic perspective, should give you one of two things. It should help to deliver a swing state that is, maybe up in the air for you, or it should help to shore up a policy area that's a little weak for you. You look back to Barack Obama selecting Joe Biden. He didn't need Joe Biden for Delaware, but he needed Joe Biden because he provided some foreign policy substance some experience that at that time Senator Obama didn't have. And so it's usually one of those two goals is behind the strategy of a vice presidential pick. That does not seem to be driving Donald Trump's decision making right now. There are other candidates out there who could potentially fill some of those those needs for him. I don't know that he's necessarily down to one of those three, but I don't think anybody's really viewing Ohio as a swing state right now. Certainly not the Dakotas, and so I'm not sure that he's thinking in those terms.
Sure.
And I think that's actually probably a relief to some in his base. I don't think they want him thinking in conventional political terms.
Sure.
And so I think there might even be some value in that for him. But I do think he probably is looking at what they can deliver in terms of the voting bloc, but also looking for that loyalty to his policy agenda that he felt he didn't have last time.
That's a very good thing and a very good point. Of course, if Donald Trump is anything, he is unconventional and outside this political sphere. Stephen, anything else you'd like to add ahead of a busy week? I know we're talking about the debate, not a ton of news until we get on the stage. Anything else about these topics that you want to touch on?
So certainly, I think that what I've been stressing for the last week or two here is a lot of people want to overlook the importance of this debate because it's June and it's a lot earlier than we typically see debates. It's before the conventions, it's before the VPs. Some of the VP candidates have been named, and a lot of people think it's inconsequential. But I keep thinking back to that first debate in 2020 and thinking back to that poll I found really kind of standing out at the time was that a lot of people said we didn't tune into the later debates because the first one was kind of decisive for us. It confirmed something we already were kind of worried about, was kind of the response we saw from a lot of people there. And so I think that it would be a mistake to discount the importance of Thursday night.
Yeah, this is, of course, this is not the first time these two will be on the stage. It's going to be an interesting one, but like you said, of critical importance as we count down the days until this November election. All right, Dr. Stephen Neely, thank you again. I appreciate your time and your insight here on Live Now.
Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you so much. All right, let's continue on here on Live Now from Fox. Very interesting conversation. That debate coming up on Thursday night, the first of three between Trump and Biden. I'm Manny Mac. We're back after this.